Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention, education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and on the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal him. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth?
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
All right there. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Straight Up Tonight. I hope everyone had a productive day and is keeping well. I am going to be your host tonight. I know most of you would have already known me. My name is Wayne Caesar. I'll be sitting in tonight for Mr. Mark Benskop, or regular anchor on the show here. So tonight, we're going to basically discuss a lot of the current affairs that is happening across our country. And listen, I want you guys to fill up the comment section, with your comments. I'm going to try to look over and see what your guys take on some of the topics that we're going to discuss tonight. I'm going to have a guest with me. As soon as the operator can get him in, he will come in. But all right, here we go. Thank you so much, operator. My guest tonight is Mr. Jason Benjamin. Jason, welcome to Straight Up Tonight. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm wonderful, all motivated and ready to motivate others, especially the young people in Guyana, to stand up and resist evil. And so I'm here much enthused with a single heart representing many voices. So good night to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jason. So, we're gonna kick off. Let's hit on the first issue that I would like, your take on tonight. So, the opposition is moving to the courts when it comes to the PPPC and Irfan Ali, extending the tenure of acting commissioner Mr. Clifton Hicken. And I would like your take on that.
Uh, to pronounce on that issue, first, a major problem having military experience. I am not in support of promotion by mere terms of service. Rather, not possessing the academic qualification that deems such office holder to think par excellence and make wise decisions that it would serve the country in its best. At this juncture, we definitely have the opposite. And so, in my opinion, I believe that the corrupt, uneducated, installed commissioner of police acting should be sent home. He's unfit for that office since he would have been allowing himself to be used as a stooge to the turncoat Bharat Jagdeo.
Thank you, Jason. And listen, I could not have agreed more with you on that. He is already at the tender retirement age. He should be retired. There is other, officers that are there that can fulfill that role. Many senior officers are there that can fulfill that role. And, to watch them carry on with this acting is a lot of acting in these positions. Why can't we just go ahead and install a police commissioner? And listen, they have to do a lot of acting because, after all, I feel like if this government is acting too, because they're an installed government, they're not a legal government. And hence, they're doing a lot of the things that they're doing. And listen, Clifton Hicken would fulfill the mandate of the PPPC because, as you would have mentioned, Jason, so eloquently, he is there to be the stooge, to follow the orders. And listen, if the person at the top is following the orders, then it's hard to get the guys below him not to follow the orders. Hence, the reason why it is of the opinion of most that the majority of the Guyana police force is corrupt. And I cannot doubt that. Listen, we have somebody, a top cop, a quote unquote top cop, who's ignorant of the laws. That's number one. Who would have scored so lowly on the exams. His score was, I think, a 27 or a 26. There is no way that he should be sitting there. But under this government, you will have things like that, especially when you have an installed president who would have attended the University of IFLAT, right? So it's a trickle-down effect, right, Jason?
Yes, I do agree with that because what we have seen over the years would not only allow us to accurately pronounce on these issues that are so prominent in Guyana, but would have also, we could actually deliver confidently looking at the frequency of how things unfold in the corrupt PPP regime. I say this to simply say that we see that for you to be a part of the PPP regime, you have to have stains, and not just normal stains, horrible stains on you to be a part. And in this way, the turncoat Jagdeo gets that opportunity to manipulate them. In such an approach, what we are seeing is that to have an uneducated, a dull, or a dumb style, a misfit for that office to be parading as the acting commissioner of police, what we're seeing is that for this kind of thing, it brings in a certain culture, a culture that does not speak morally or ethically to the Guyanese community or what Guyana was known for under the Burnham's era.
Right. Henceforth, it is not aligning with our values, basically.
Exactly.
Right. And I feel like if that's the direction that the government is going in, they seem to want to discredit, You understand me? The progress of Guyana, from in the past when we talk about Burnham and stuff like that, because Jack Dio is quick to be critical of LFS, the honorable, the great, Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham. Listen, there's never been a president in Guyana who's been able to step into his shoes since, right? Let's be honest here, okay? They have not been one. And Jack Dio is quick to criticize him, but what he needs to do, he needs to go back and look at the body of work that LFS Burnham would have done, because Jack Dio would have had 23 years, my brother, 23 years. And look at the condition of our country. It has not moved. We're still using the same Linden Highway that was built by who? Not the same LFS Samson Burnham, Linden Forbes Samson Burnham. Yes, we are. Right? For the most part, a lot of the infrastructure that went up during the Burnham era is still alive and well. We might have built a little bit onto it and, expand a bit. But for the most part, it's there, compared to these roads that the PPP is putting in now, these little cookie cutter roads that they're putting in there now. Yeah, Jason, go ahead.
That is very true.
Yeah, let me touch on this quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. The police complaint head accuses top cop of violating the act. So listen, when you have, and this is Justice Ramlal here. Okay? And he's a good one. All right? And when he can come out and accuse the top cop, of violating acts, with his officers also, it's not just the top cop, it's the people below him, and their actions. If Justice Ramlal could come out and say this, it paints a picture. It paints a picture that the Guyana police force have lost respect for their clients. All right, the ranks, they're not in touch with the laws. Simple laws, they're ignorant to. They pull people in and they tend to hold them for 72 hours, and it's not even necessary.
I want to take
a go ahead,
because what we're seeing is the kind of example being purported to the young. It is not the best for Guyana's future development, because here is where we see a stage is being set to accept substandards by any means necessary, and this in itself should not be trickled down to the Guyanese community. And so I would use this opportunity to call on our youths to continue reading, keep abreast of the social media, keep involved with what is unfolding around you, be informed, seek ways to be reliably informed, and resist this kind of thing. The top cop is uneducated. He's illiterate. Even simply the ability to reason, he's out of touch with reality. And so, like we're seeing, at a time when he should depart and allow young, future, bright leaders, policemen to take over. Even Mr. Williams, who should have rightfully been in that position, was crookedly or falsely denied that right to truly serve the Guyanese community in a way that would embrace ethical and moral values, in a way that Guyanese will be proud of the police force. But because this kind of culture is being forced upon us, we should not accept it. And so I am using this platform to call on Guyanese community to prepare for what is to come. As Martin Luther King would once remind us, our lives begin to end the day we become silent on issues that matter. And so in this way, I would simply say that top cop is unfit and he should really relieve himself from that coveted position.
Well said, Mr. Benjamin. Listen, the PPP, operate, at a level of substandard. Okay, and the Guyanese people, we need to start stepping to the plate, you know, and holding this government accountable. And not just that, holding the government to higher standards. Because, you know, when I look at this government is way too involved in the private sector from a business perspective. They are way too involved. Government should not be that involved unless the business sector is experiencing issues. That's when government would come in and try to give like bailout loans and these type of things. But you know, that is not the case in Guyana. But the government continues to hustle through the business sector, put up buildings, this person own this, you know, all these government officials. And we need to get a grip, you know. We need to get a grip. We need to start holding these guys accountable. And, you
One of
know,
the
yeah, go ahead,
one
Mr.
thank you very much, Wayne. One of the things we also must recognize, and this is to you, the Guyanese people, proper planning prevents poor performance. PPP does not know how to plan and plan for true growth or for true efficiency within the Guyanese context. Here we're seeing, even at this structure, the end game is not just having a stooge as the top cop to serve Guyana, but it has far-reaching consequences because we also saw that where there are many security firms pop up under this regime, and guess what? Every one of them is aligned or to work as or in the interest of that corrupt installed regime. I know many would not like me to say installed, but that is the reality. And we must call a spade a spade. And so you are seeing where once a security firm does something contrary to the laws of Guyana, we see quickly the top cop does not conform with the bystanders of the police force, or chapter 1501 or 1701, I believe. But what we see, it's more greasing of hands and so many other forms of inside trading and all these different fashions of corruption being plagued within this setting. And to crown it all, he is still unable to make a proper decision on his own. And so definitely that culture is not what the police, the Guyana police force needs. For example, as we can see, man wanted for yesterday shooting to death provides documentation showing he has been in the US since June, calls police reckless for issuing bulletins. And these are the kind of things we see daily on a daily basis. Take, for instance, we had the other issue recently with the shooting to death of Olato Sam, rest in peace. However, we see quickly that some form of makeshift investigation was on the way. But in that process, we clearly see quickly the police comes out with their famous statement, oh, man shot in shootout. And when you get to the other side of the events, publicly, you see a difference in their thing. But guess what? The top cop again still fail to come out and to instruct and to allow the law to take its due course. And these are the kind of things we're seeing. And there are so many others, but I'll hand it over back to you at this stage.
Thank you very much, Jason. And yes, there are so many others. You can see the top cop there is standing with Mr. Azruddin Mohammed. You know, so like you would have said, Jason, you would have talked about collusion and everybody, you know, greasing each other's hands. That's a good example right there. That's why we have not moved anywhere with the paper sharks murder, right? Because hands are being greased, and you know they're hoping that little by little that would move away from us, and we will forget everything about Ricardo Fagundes. But I don't think that we are ready to go down that road as yet. And then again, look here, Mr. Dion Bascom, you know, he would have also brought charges or attempted to do so. And the DPP would have thrown the charges out without even, I don't even think she would have sit down and look at that file the way she should have looked at it. Because again, you know, the greasing of the hands, everybody's colluding, everybody's working together as one. They're all a part of that inner circle. And I would say it again with this DPP, you know, we've got to figure out something from a legislative perspective because I am feeling that she has just too much sweeping powers. I mean, Jason,
Exactly.
if you look at the example of Mr. David Patterson, that file was brought before her with no hesitation. Because if you ask me what should have resulted from that file being presented before her, is that, hey, you know, Mr. Patterson, this is a warning, a strict warning to you. Do not, you know, let this occur again. You are a public official. I would have given David Patterson a good tongue lashing and sent him walking. You understand me? This is nothing to bring charges. This is petty, but it is coming on the backbone of the Darmlal situation. So therefore, here is an opportunity to parade David Patterson through the courts and persecute him. Your take, Jason, on the whole David
Well,
Patterson.
first of all, let's set the record straight. The DPP, she has too many powers, and I think that the Constitution in itself needs to be amended. Amended in a way that would bring equitable distribution or fairness to the people of Guyana whenever the law comes into use. What we also saw was, and this is because of the frequency at which she does it, we see where selective cases, people who are closely aligned to that factor, of course, she too is a stooge of the turncoat Jack Dio, or the de facto president, I would refer to him as. But what we see is that, one, when a certain ethnic group comes before her, we see quickly the swift execution of unfair justice, because that is not fair justice, unfair justice being meted out. And when we see another ethnicity that aligns to her liking, we see the delay tactics from all forms. And that in itself shows clearly that she is not a fair character in that capacity which she serves. And she too should relieve herself from duty. She's unfit for that office.
Jason, I don't think that any of these PPP officials, whether the DPP, any of the MPs, any of their permanent secretaries, none of them are willing to relieve themselves of duty. But you know what? Let's not worry too much. We're just about out of 2023, 2024, 2025. The people of Guyana will relieve all of them of
But
their duty.
Wayne, I want to take a little pitch to this here,
Yes,
because
sure.
so many wrongs are being done by the corrupt PPP regime. And we can see it in so many angles based on how we look at it, especially for optics. Is it that the PPP are trying to test us as citizens to see how much we can take so that they can have their way? Is it that we the people are too soft to really stand up and bring back that Barnumite spirit, that fighting spirit, that which you can stand up and fight for justice? Is it that they are trying to set the stage so that they can have this one Guyana, which of course you and I know is far from reality? And so it begs many questions. But what I can say, and what I'm calling on us Guyanese to do, is to resist evil in all forms, because for too long this kind of horrendous unfair justice is being meted out to the people, And in simple saying, we the Guyanese people, we need to stand up. And when stand up now, rebuke this evil because it is not good for Guyana. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Well said. And that's a very, very good point. And from that point, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this from that point, Jason. When you look at Guyana over the last 30 years or so, and let's not forget that the PPPC would have been in power for 23 straight years, right? Over those 23 years, they would have conditioned the people, man. We are trying to reverse something here. It's going to take some time. It cannot be done in 1 or 2 days because remember, this happened over a period of 23 years. That's why this program, Cheryl Duncan's program, whenever Rickford Bird get on, Norman Brown, Dr. David Hines, Kidaki Amsterdam, all these programs are very, very important because on these programs, we continue to edify the people. We continue to remind them of their rights. We continue to empower and encourage them. And I feel that is what is needed at this time, especially heading in to the 2025 elections, or if it happens before that. That's why you always have to be prepared. You always have to have a vision in place. You always have to be prepared for leadership. Now, Mr. Benjamin, there's a few things that I think going to be happening in the United States from, the opposition perspective. Can you enlighten our audience as to what you know in relation to those things that are going to be, those events that are going to be occurring?
Well, of course, there are several groups in the diaspora which are hosting the opposition leader at this sensitive time in our arena. And while we would have like Vision for Guyana and the New York People's National Congress reform having a spectacular event for the opposition leader, Aubrey C. Norton, um, we know that venue, as outlined here, would be at the Tropical Breeze Ballroom. But even tonight, there is an activity in New Jersey currently undergoing, and they have several other activities throughout his visit for this time. But one may ask, what is the purpose for all of this? It's not just about raising funds to help our Guyanese sisters and brothers back home, but it is also um, continuing that journey of uniting the people, because in itself, unity is key. All of our strength is in union, and all of our danger is in discord. And so we would have known, I say we as in terms of the diaspora, would have known since one of our key weapons would have been international exposure to many advanced technologies and to see how things are being done in a different way for a similar situation back home. You can have the exchange or transferal of knowledge to the comrade leader, by extension, his team. And so this visit, or more so the different events, seek to contribute meaningfully to bringing about awareness in unifying the People's National Congress, so that in itself it would not just be a party, but rather the power of the people preparing itself to compete and to covet that position of really taking Guyana in a different direction, and not what the PPP is currently doing, taking us further down in the abyss.
Thank you very much, Jason. Well said. Well said. When you look, at what the opposition is doing right now, and that is good. That is good because the diaspora do lend a lot of support, not just the United States, but Canada, the UK, you know, amongst many other countries that you have Guyanese, you know, living in those nations. Yes, the town hall meeting was from 6 to 9 this afternoon in Jersey. I actually had someone reached out to me, you know, letting me know that the town hall meeting was in session and everything. But
And
yeah.
for this other one, Wayne, forgive me of
Mhm.
that.
Sure.
The Queen's Town Hall meeting. This one is very significant. Significant in the sense that we are going to an arena, as they would say. The PNC is not about black people only. It's about all races. Whatever decisions or opinions are being offered or so, it's for the people, with the people, by the people. And this in itself is a highly populated East Indian area. And that's just one thing to note from this. And this activity would be on August the 24th, 2023, Starlight Pavilion. And it's very important to know that even at this time, we have our East Indian brothers and sisters, you know, coming on board, and those who share common values are going to be a part of this. So I'm using this opportunity to invite other stakeholders, other persons to come on board, listen to what has to be exchanged, but more so, remember, we are Guyanese. We are not one Guyana. We are Guyanese. The love and respect for one another, and not what is being tried to force upon us at this juncture. One people, one destiny, or right? Not they one, this one ethnicity, and so that is something to note, because in itself, you know, we have an uneducated dunce, dull, or fraud, who, of course, from the IFLOT University, with 19 fraud charges being placed against him. And here is where it brings us back, right back to the corrupt Aliak, the same behavior again, the DPP. You know, this case was thrown out. Those charges were removed. Crookedly, of course, and not by way of we know what unfolded then, but not to deviate from the activities that are unfolding currently in the diaspora. I think the people should know that this is an opportunity to really lend their support and help the Guyanese community back home in more ways than one.
Thank you so much, Jason. So, you know, I asked the question, what good is a party if you don't continue to build it and bring, you know, more people on board, more members on board? It doesn't matter the ethnicity, as you would have said, Jason. We're all one people, right? And I look at that town hall, right, as a party building
True.
exercise, you know, just
Very
based
true.
on the logistic, the location of it. And you know, I must say I am proud of the opposition for actually doing that, because the PPPC have not just marginalized just the Afro Guyanese or the APN, your opposition faction of the nation. They would have offended also and marginalized some of their own people who would have voted for them. And those people are not pleased at the moment, you know. So, like you would have said, Jason, so eloquently, we need to reach out to everyone. And I say this, you know, our motto, one people, meaning all six
All citizens.
ethnic group, one nation. We are talking about Guyana, you know, that belongs to all of us, and one destiny. We must all live in peace. The wealth that we would have, you know, have in place should be equitably distributed
Distributed.
amongst all of us. Therefore, all the people will live in harmony. But the PPPC does not believe in that. They believe in taking the wealth, lining their pockets, and sharing it amongst themselves in the inner circle that they have. Now, thanks to the operator for putting these homes out there. Jason, what are your thoughts on these homes, and what purpose do you think they would serve a Guyanese family? Let's say somebody who have 6 children, 4 children, because you know we have some big families in Guyana. Just
Yeah,
give me that week.
but first of all, from the appearance of what was presented here as a great initiative for the corrupt regime, clearly we see that this doesn't even fit that of a foul pen. And so this is unfit. It's not habitable. It's not human friendly. We see, of course, that's a boogie trap. You understand? For you to have little children playing there, that's an unhealthy setting. It's not human friendly in itself. When you look around and to know that your country has oil or black gold, as we would have referred to it as, and to see the kind of delivery coming from the corrupt PPP, one has to ask, do they really understand the depth to which our values rely on or are placed? And so clearly, we see that this is a classless government, one that has no shame. You understand? Everything they touch melts, it turns to salt. Everything they touch, there's nothing good about their initiative. And clearly, one would ask, why would you even put something like this to put families? This is a brother, this is a sister. And so, in my opinion, I would look at my Guyanese sister and brother as someone just like me. And if I have a problem with even going there, it's obvious that my Guyanese brother and sister would have to, not because of being starved for mere income and so on, but to have a human factor being placed in such a setting, it's unkind, it's uncaring. And so my point is for people to see the fruits or those rotten fruits that are coming or birthing from the corrupt PPP regime, it's nothing less than a valueless system, and they should resist or rebuke it. You understand? It's not even catering for garden, kitchen garden, a pathway, nothing. It's just more a hogwash setting. But yet, what is when you look at the cost factor for those things, they tell you one thing, but then we know, of course, when you do the evaluation or the accounting side of it, it's a mismatch. And there you have it. It's all about aligning their pockets with these shady projects being offered to the people for mere propaganda or for mere saying I did something. But what they have done so far? Absolutely nothing. And so I'm calling on the people to think for themselves, observe what is going on around them, and resist, rebuke, chase the PPP out. They're unfit for government. They're not ready for this kind of modern day leadership. And so, if we don't make that stand to unite and stand firm, then we're further going to suffer. And is that a position we want? Absolutely not. So I'm calling on my brothers and sisters, think Guyanese, rebuke the PPP. They're corrupt.
And just to add a little to what Jason would have said there, by the way, well said, Jason. Think independently. We need more independent thinkers amongst the people. Don't just follow, think, internalize, analyze. You may have to do some additional reading that you may not be comfortable with or you may not be accustomed to, but you need to do it. You have children, you have grandchildren, you have generations to come after you. So don't feel that you're doing something that is going to just affect today. It's going to affect today, tomorrow, and the future. So, Jason, that was a very, very, very good point. And I like the proposal though, Jason, that the opposition is proposing when it comes to housing, right?
Oh, yes.
Did you read that one? Do you want to elaborate on it?
Well, I like the initiative. That's a good pointer to note. I like the initiative of the opposition leader, as it says, a rent to own, because obviously people know the cost for a house is very exorbitant, and with what they are currently facing in society, to find a means to an end with what cannot accurately satisfy their immediate needs, they still have to find a way out. And so, with that kind of system being put in place, not only on paper, but when the achieve that coveted office, it definitely takes some burden away from not only single parent but generally families in Guyana. In that, okay, I can still reach another milestone for my children while I put a little bit to what I would already are already being consumed or using, in this case the house. And so I like that initiative. I endorsed it, and I am much of a big supporter of that kind of thing, because for you in this current state to tell me who cannot find a means to an end, and I'm speaking to our general citizens, those who are stuck in poverty, that you cannot see a silver lining at the end of the tunnel. Oh no, at this stage, it doesn't work. Why? You're already asking me if I have to move from one location to another, or even to occupy that little foul pen. The cost of that foul pen is already, I don't see a means to an end for that. And so you're stuck for it in poverty. And those are the kind of booby traps we are trying, to make people aware or become aware of. Don't fall prey to just what is tasting sweet on the tongue. Observe, examine, look at it, think for yourself, and make wise decisions. But most important, unite. I believe that the rent to own is a very good initiative, well thought out, and Guyanese should think further along that line rather than having to accept substandards as a means to an end.
Well said, Jason. And one thing I would guarantee, Jason, is that the homes that the opposition is going to build is going to look much better than what we would have just viewed there, that the operator would have just put up there.
That
That's
that
one thing I can guarantee.
That is very true, because when I did further reading and I even spoke with, we would say, the one-on-one with the comrade, the opposition leader, rather, in that initiative, there's a catering for kitchen gardens and all these things, because people need to have land space to have their own kitchen garden. You and I know that in the US, how kitchen garden plays an important role in this economy, and every little bit adds up. So to have a plan, not a foul pen or a kitchen cube, but to have a home, or a house rather, that you can convert into a home which cater for other intricacies, that people can live off of the land and so on. I think in that way, it's a very good initiative, and I would call on the Guyanese community to embark on initiatives of such and rebuke or reject that foolishness that the corrupt installed PPP regime is offering. We have oil. Every person in Guyana should be entitled to a free stipend. When everything started, Guyanese in itself, or Guyana, was rated as even far wealthier than the Dubai. But guess what? Under this PPP regime, the mismanagement and everything, a rent to own is not even in their vision. And so they are visionless, and you need people with vision. Guyanese, we deserve best, not just better. We deserve best. And so at all times, you stand up firm and let that count. We deserve better as Guyanese. And in our claim, always stand out for best. So rebuke the PPP. I'm telling you that.
That again, well said, Jason. I was doing some analysis today, because Guyanese are some of the richest people across the world per capita. And when I kind of, break out each individual, every year each Guyanese is worth about 2.1, almost 2.2 million dollars. And to see, what they're getting, to see what's happening, it's shameful. And I heard a little snippet of a press conference Bar Jagdeo had, where he was talking about the level of the Guyana dollar. Let me first correct Bar Jagdeo, and I'm going to give him some lashes on this later, but I'm going to correct him. We can't talk about the level of dollar. We have to talk about the value of the Guyanese dollar. He has to get that at least two more times before the
Two
night
more
is
times
over. Yes, at least two more times, Jason. We're not playing around. You understand me? We're giving lashes tonight.
tonight.
This is not a game. This is about lashes. But I'm gonna address Barrett Jagdeo on the value of the Guyana dollar on the next show that we have, because that called for some specific lashes. So I'm gonna get that ready for him. And Mr. Benjamin, in moving forward, I just want to jump quickly to another issue here. When we look at the Georgetown Public Hospital, and there would have been a report from News Source. And by the way, a pleasant good evening to Mr. Gordon Mosley. Yes, there would have been a report from News Source that indicated within the first 6 months of this year, we had 100 nurses resigned. I just want your take on the overall, health, a quick overall on the health industry and where, you see our nurses and where you think they should be.
Okay. So I want to extrapolate and go a little deeper. A little deeper, not just to Georgetown Hospital, but to holistically address the nursing situation in Guyana. Uh, Two examples stood out to mind tonight. We have in Linden, for example, a place that definitely turns or kicks Barra Jagdeo in his gluteus maximus. As hard as possible. Even to this moment, he still cannot come to grips with what unfolded in the local government election. We see where they closed the nursing brigade and another entity in Linden. And one of the things to note is that in Guyana, when PPP was installed and by the ABC, mind you, we see clearly that unemployment was a mere 40% in Guyana, not just Linden alone. And from then to current, we see all these closures with the nursing entity, but in specific areas or regions, and those regions that do not embrace or side with the PPP. But they also sought to open the entity in Berbice as Region 6, a place where there is not much or no need for people traveling all the way from Linden to Berbice to go for that when it's needed throughout the country. And so you see these sporadic movements of closure and replacement unfolding before our eyes. Likewise, we also know that the public sector is craving, they're hungry for that extra dollar, an extra dollar that they rightfully deserve as a Guyanese. And then when we compare it to, when we look at what they're getting and you cast your eyes in the budget, we see clearly that there is nothing catered for them other than roads, roads, roads. People cannot eat roads. And so you're seeing a further adjustment of bringing economic hardship on the people, whether be it placement of people, skills, whatever, and especially with the nurses. So here's where you see the uneducated or fraud or the dunce, presidents or Fan Hali. He's unable to really plug that hole and to let his voice sound. And so he is just a misfit. However, the turncoat Jagdeo, the de facto leader, is the one who is pulling those strings. But the question I would ask and still answer is, why is he pulling those strings? And so to best answer it, we see clearly that when you do these kind of shifts, people can either lend themselves to brain drain, meaning they move up their skills and move out of Guyana to another entity, leaving it in further devastation. And in that way, it tends to feed into Crooked Barajagdio's initiative. What we also see is that this kind of economic hardship for those who wish not to step out of the circle and contribute to brain drain, we also see that, hey, they are now faced with their backs against the wall. And so, should they conform to the likings of the PPP, which feeds into their One Guyana initiative, or should they resist? And so, in itself, if the people do not stay united, definitely they would be in confusion or disarray, and pieces can fall all around the place. And so, this is why I am calling on the Guyanese community to recognize that the end game is not just closing down something in Linden or in Georgetown and carrying it to Borbies. The end game of all of this foolish planning is simply for manipulation to have full control over the Guyanese people. And that in itself, we say a full no. So while I am abroad, yes, at the same time, I'm calling on my Guyanese counterparts, you understand, to not just give in or contribute to what is being purported to them by the corrupt PPP regime, but rather unite, support, empower one another, and resist the crooked PPP. And how will we resist them in one way or the other? Protest is needed in Guyana. That's just one of the methods. But in closing, when it comes to the nurses in Guyana, it is just a way of the PPP trying to continue its machination to have economic starvation, which contributes to brain drain. And of course, what it plays into is that now when you have nurse shortages in all these different arenas, they then say, oh, we don't have nurses, but guess what? Let us bring nurses from where? Haiti? Absolutely no. They go straight to India, and this is where they see. And so, as more and more they can apply and put people from their ethnicity into those arenas, in itself, our setting becomes smaller and smaller to the point where we have to now look at another means to an end. And that in itself will not work for Guyana or for Guyanese. So what we're seeing is a recipe for disaster. And in truth, it wouldn't be too long for civil unrest to come in Guyana at the rate at which the PPP is unfolding or unleashing hardship on the people or Guyanese citizens.
You know, Jason, when you look at that,
I think I want to take the first jump here, Wayne.
you want to take the first bite?
Yes,
all right.
yes.
Go on.
I really would like to caution my Guyanese. You see, knowledge is power. And in truth, what we're seeing there may appeal to the public in a welcoming way more than one. But in truth, right, what we're seeing is the politics being played into our hands over and over again by the same corrupt Jagdio. Guess what? You remembered when I just pulling the audience mind back. You remembered with the sugar workers, severance pay, and all these different things, what the PPP did? In the midst of everything, the people still came out and protest against them and so on. And guess what? It was the hands of the PPP. So I'm using this opportunity now to show that what is unfolding currently played in the earliest before under the same crooked Barajagdio. So I do not think for one moment that this is a win for the opposition. No, it's not. It's a PPP narrative. It's a foolhardy. You understand? All the shots being played at by Barajagdio at this moment, you understand, is something that would have played out before. And this is the whole political mantis behavior. So here is where you see it is being orchestrated by the PPP to find a way to give their core supporters more funding. And if the protest at this stage, which in itself curtails into greasing other people's hands and take more money from the treasury. So look out after this protest. You're going to hear that more money is more payout and so on. And this is the problem we have with the corrupt regime. They pull all these different stunts to hoodwink the nation. And in itself, Guyanese, don't be fooled. Barajagdio is a joker. He's a waste of time. You can amass how much wealth you want. At the end of the day, when you die, you leave, you go with nothing. But instead, you would have lost that opportunity to really do good to the people of Guyana, and everyone can create their own legacy. So, people, don't be fooled by this protest. I am not convinced because I know the playbook of the PPP in more ways than one. And what we just saw is simply a way to get back into the treasury. Watch out for it.
It's coming. It's coming. Every time they go to Parliament, that's it. The Treasury, we want more. We didn't budget accurately. They always want more. It's never that, they're over budget. I've never seen the PPPC over budgeted. Never.
True.
What's interesting there, Jason, and that's a very, very valid point you made there. But it's interesting, we probably need to do an analysis to see if the sugar workers are making more than the nurses, because based on the amount of monies that these guys would have received and based on what the nurses would have gotten, I am starting to think that sugar workers, it's worth getting into the sugar business rather than being a nurse.
With your
Like a nurse, you got to sit down and burn that midnight oil to be educated, right? Because you're dealing with people. You got to know your math. You got to be able to measure the medications amongst other things, right? But, you just sharpen a machete and you make sure that your body's in good shape and you go cut your cane. But you know what's interesting? If one of those sugar workers is bitten by a snake and has to be transported to the hospital, look who has to take care of him or her. I
That's
don't
so
understand this government, this installed government, man. These guys are not very smart. But I'm going to move away from this for a moment because I want to touch on something. We had a young lady from the credit union last night with myself and Mark. And, I just want your take, on the PPPC trying to control the entire banking industry.
So let me enunciate to the point. What the corrupt PPP regime is seeking to do, and again, this is for optics, it is to control the people. That's their main focus or end game. It is not about working with or through the people for a common objective. There is no everyone happy at the end of the initiative. It's just a winner takes all by any means necessary. And so in that banking industry, what do you see? It's only a certain ethnicity. Most of the monies are being directed to, and that in itself is for colossal failure. People may say, oh, just one set on money, but money is power. Where they get it's financial power, and for those in with the finances, they tend to align themselves closely with coerced power. You understand? And so what we're seeing is that is more of a one-track mind or a one-track PPP with their end game of ruling the people by any means necessary, the Putin style. You understand? And this is what is being trickled down all along. So I wouldn't get in depth with the intricacies or the management, but the end game of all this manipulation and seeking to control, it is by any means necessary to rule the people. And that in itself, government should not be ruling the people, but rather set up or establish proper policies that people can have a livable life or a standard lifestyle and enjoy their destiny.
Ah, well said. Well, I'll just go a little bit more in there. You know, Based on the interest rates that are charged at these financial, institutions across Guyana, the only place you can probably get a better rate, and not even probably that you would get a better rate, would be a credit union. And if the government is seeking to get control of the credit union, that means that they would have basically monopolized the financial industry.
That's true.
Not just one bank. You'll say, well, okay, if we have one bank, it's a monopoly. But no, this is government control. You understand me? Government having their hands. And you see, this should not happen. This is not the way government operates.
True.
You understand me? It is not the way government operates. Government should not be in the banking industry like that unless the banking industry is experiencing, like liquidity issues,
Right.
or something to that extent. But that is not the case, and the government is upping all these things. Listen, this government is not just an installed illegal government. This government is an illegal government. Everything they do tends to be illegal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is concerning. The people just cannot, and you would have said it, Jason. The people have got to get up and stand up, man.
Yep.
They've got to listen. The next, and we're going to touch on this quickly too, Jason. The next year to 2 years, it's very, very, very critical as we head into 2025, because the opposition must come out victorious in 2025. If they do not, Jason, if they do not, it's going to be very, very, very difficult recovering Guyana, because I thought the 2020 elections was the most critical elections in the history of Guyana. But I think this 2025 elections will trump that. The 2025 election will be the most critical election in our history.
Well, permit me
Yes.
to add my 2 cents.
Yes, sure.
One of the things we are currently seeing, we saw recently the movement of 6 permanent secretaries and the inclusion of 2 new ones. And again, for those people with my age and older, once you would have kept your eyes on the corrupt PPP regime, you would see the trend or the behavior of more the same, because this playbook is not something new, it's old. When they start the commencement of moving these people, it's a quick call out or an alert that, hey, elections may not be 2025. In my opinion, I believe they are positioning themselves or aligning themselves to make that call at a time convenient before 2025. That's just my opinion. And so I would appeal to our Guyanese counterpart do not fall prey with just trying to survive and so on, but to rather, you too also prepare yourself. I will be coming home to give my vote, and my vote is to what? Vote the PPP out of office, right? And so what we're seeing with May, the stooge to the turncoat again, all these people who she should have been fired, instead there's a replacement to the Ministry of Labor. And so these people are being manipulated or placed into different settings to do the dirty biddings for the corrupt PPP regime. You understand? And in itself, it begs more questions than answers. And to crown it all, right, we also saw where ExxonMobil was also chastised by the US government, you understand, about the same Mohammed. And you and I know that once a party is sanctioned by the US, the ExxonMobil cannot by no means do business with that entity. And so there are many different pieces being parceled out or put together. And you're seeing all these different things, which actually lends itself to that of early elections. So with what I'm seeing currently in the PPP, it's to me repositioning themselves for the oil machine to spin.
All right. Well said, Jason. And I see your point there. Listen, if there is a chance that the PPPC will call early elections, I will tell you this. They wouldn't call early elections in a period that they are on the back foot. For example, with the whole Darmlal issue, they would have never called for elections at that time because they were on the back foot. I say this to say this. The opposition, you understand me, needs to step their game up and making sure that they're always ready, because you heard what you just said, Jason. There is a chance that these people can call elections at any time. Okay. Yep. I want your take on this. I'm going to ask you a simple question. Your take on the posture of our MPs. Do you feel our MPs should be on the ground more? I want you to give me, your thoughts on that quickly, please. Yes.
Well, thanks for your question. And I think it's a fair one to bring a balance to this program. In my opinion, it's not just how I see it, but because I sit in this seat currently representing many voices, I also carry their share of the questioning. And for the most part, I think the opposition in itself needs to pay keen attention or give more attention to the voices of their electorates. I say this because they are the ones feeling the burns and the hardship. And so, to answer your question against the backdrop that I would have just proffered, I am of the opinion, based on what would have related to me and what I've seen with my own eyes, that fancy gallop don't win a race. You understand? It's about getting your feet in the mud. And should I say that the MPs are doing their best, I would have been lying to the Guyanese community. And
Mr. Benjamin,
for those who know me, go ahead.
Stick a pin right there. You heard what you would have just said. Correct. Getting your feet in the mud. I'm going to ask you a question on top of that, and you're going to continue with what you was going to say. So don't forget.
Very well.
I'm going to ask you a question on top of that. Getting your feet in the mud. Sometimes or consistently. Which one you want to see?
Well, I would say consistently, because constant banging softens the wreck. And in that way, based on what would have gathered from the electorates in themselves, they believe, or they are of the opinion, that the MPs can do much more. And so with the same sentiment, I would say I strongly believe that the MPs for the opposition party can do much more than what they are doing to strategically, triumphantly win their bid, as well as by extension, seeing the party goes right into power. They can do much more.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. It's not coming from my mouth. It's coming from a man who is representative of the people. He's representative of the people on the ground. And Mr. Benjamin, I thank you for all that you do, because I know you're always interacting with the people on the ground. You're always encouraging them, and listen, keep up the good work, because,
Thank you.
we all have a small part to play. Mr. Benjamin, is there any topic tonight that you would like to discuss that I did not touch on, that you would like to elaborate on?
Well, thanks again for your question. I believe the topic of how to vote. I think from now we shouldn't wait until it gets closer to election. But I believe that while it may not be you and I call for such a call out, I believe here is where it shows that the opposition needs to do more to bring about that early awareness for how registered voters can do their part. And so in our, not just the voters education, but by extension, the topic would be, are we prepared to go with the same list, voters list, or should we stand firm as a people, as a country, and rebuke that trash and have a proper voters list? And it would be open for more other discussions with that. But I believe that that topic in itself is one that should be discussed as we go along.
Well said, Jason. Yes, and I feel that there's a massive need for a new voters list. No, and Jason, we talk about biometrics. I think we're getting to the point now where it may be too late for biometrics. So a new voters list would definitely be needed. And doesn't it surprise you, Jason, that we are 3 years into this installed regime reign, and we still have not addressed the issue of a new voters list? And listen to this, Jason. We are not talking about a voters list that's gonna contain 2 or 3 million people at most, right? 800,000 people, right, Jason? Isn't that interesting? Don't you
Very
find that to be very, elaborate on that a little for me, please?
Well, I want to differ with reference to it might be too late for biometrics. The truth is, or provides mechanisms. I'm not the attorney here, but the Constitution of Guyana provides for mechanisms to address issues of such, whether be it by extension to accommodate, because the court has the last say. The question I have, though, would be, will the judicial system stand up for fair justice and allow what's right to be done? Because we saw initially where the same judicial system induced a formula that even put us in further disaster this state, where we see the voters list is now being infested with deceased voters, the names on that list. And so my thing with the technology of today, I believe that, well, of course, it started with 61 dead voters, but that number is growing. People are dying every day, and maybe they're registering elsewhere too. We look at, well, don't even talk about the absent voters, 4,864, and yet for all, the court passed a blind eye on this. This is almost one seat, being coveted here. You want to make
Jason,
a point?
But Jason, look at those 150 stuffed ballot boxes. Though, look at that. That's a lot. That's a huge amount.
Yes, but for the 47 boxes without documents, and so it just leaves room for further disaster. But in this case, I am of the view, based on my background in the technology industry, I am of the view that biometrics can be a part of this next election, or the upcoming election, general and regional elections, should Parliament endorse same. However, the Constitution provides for it too. G knows it best, right? Oh my God, man, don't upset my stomach this evening. Man, Lemon, I'll report you to Mark Benchcop. Don't do that to me. Please take that picture down. She's wicked. She's a serpent. She's corrupt. Wickedness would not profit well. So, in essence, though, the truth is that biometric is needed in this general election. We need transparency and accountability. We know definitely if we introduce biometrics into this system, definitely the dead ones cannot scan their eyeballs because there will be none. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. Jason, my only reason for saying that it may be too late for biometrics, we have to remember biometrics is something that takes time. It's a lot you have to get in place to actually get that done. That we should have started on that probably a year ago. But we're getting that window is closing for biometrics, and it's closing quite quickly, right? Because it takes time. You got to get a proper identification. You got to get the fingerprinting and all that stuff has to be done. That's gonna take some time. But listen, I agree with you. Sometimes things take a lot of time, but it depends on how you strategize and how willing you are to do the necessary due diligence, and it can work.
The reason why I'm saying it can work, we have oil, and the oil money can make a difference. It is our oil money. It can make a difference once they agree in Parliament. The problem I have, though, is the Parliament. Not in itself of what is unfolding, but why is the opposition still going to Parliament? And that's a burning question that the general electorates have. Is it just for documentation purposes? They should be doing I believe that they should be doing their Parliament in the streets. There is an opportunity for the opposition to do more. The people want to hear more from them actively, and that in itself brings into scope leadership. We know that generally leadership is the capacity and will to rally men and women to a common purpose, but the character which inspires confidence. And so at this juncture, I would definitely be championing my cause, since I would be in preview of the opposition leader, to get a direct comment from him and to feed the community again. But in itself, I believe that the electorates are fed up. They're tired of the corrupt PPP regime, and they need a chance to breathe. So you corrupt PPP regime, take your knees off of their necks, because in the end, the power is in the index finger. We'll vote you out. And again, to you people, vote the PPP out. They're bad business for Guyana.
Well said.
The PPP must go.
Well said, Mr. Benjamin. Listen, we know that the people on the ground, all of us, our perspectives are diverse, but our goal should be common. And that common goal should be to have this government removed. And when you were speaking, Jason, on the opposition going to Parliament, yes, they should go to Parliament, but they need to go to Parliament with the people. Listen, if you ask me what I'm looking for the people to line the streets, to park their cars, their minibuses, everything in the streets, to bring all the big pot that it is used to cook for wake and wedding and all of that stuff. And let's cook in the streets. Let's do everything there. Let's stop the movement. You understand me? Let's stop the movement of everything across Guyana, because if we do that, Jason, then it stops the movement of monies across the country. And listen, it doesn't hurt, because the Guyanese people are not benefiting from that money anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like the Guyanese people are living in a country that is, badly sanctioned.
Yep.
Right. So listen, there's nothing to lose. A lot of times I hear, people are living in fear. No, you're not living in fear yet. You continue to posture this way, and then you're going to see what real living in fear is when this government is controlling your life, probably controlling how many kids you could have, and doing a whole lot of other things, Jason. Because this
Look,
government is not stopping. You notice.
very
They're
well.
not stopping. They just keep coming. If you don't stop them, they're going to come and they're going to run right over you like you just didn't even exist.
Just like COVID did, because currently we have a situation in Guyana. Dengue fever is masquerading through that environment, and yet for all, people are dying quickly in numbers in Guyana. And what are they doing? They're so ill prepared for the realities of life. You understand? All because of they fail to have a proper plan. So one of the things I would like the Guyanese community to know, and this is as a result of international exposure, once we unite and come together as a people and protest, actively protest, you block the streets, you do what it is your right to protest. That's your constitutional right. You don't have to seek permission to protest. It is your right to protest. And you protest against ExxonMobil, especially with what is unfolding. It quickly brings international attention. And guess what? The PPP cannot do what they're currently doing. It's not today for you, nothing for me tomorrow. We, the people, with the people, by the people, for the people. We got to stand up, not in pockets, together as a people. If what is unfolding in Linden, the same must be going on in Georgetown. The same must be going on in Madiel. Look at how they are treating the Amerindian community. Look at how they're treating anyone who doesn't support the PPP. Look at how they're treating our kids, the children, the younger generation. You look at all these different things, and all they do is come to say, grant, grant, grant. Money doesn't fix all the issues.
No, it does not. No.
Raise the pay, raise the income. What they should be receiving at this juncture is 500% increase on their salary. And plus, once you're a Guyanese by birth, you're entitled to that oil stipend. It belongs to us, not Jack Deere on the 1%. So we need to stand up as a people and again, vote them out.
Jason, not forgetting free education at the University of Guyana. You would have attended there. Please touch on that. By the way, let me ask you a question, Jason, because I want to know what is the tuition? What's the cost right now for a semester?
It's exorbitant. I would have
Give
started.
me a ballpark. Give me something.
I would have started just for medicine alone. It's over 500,000, and that was in my time. That's just for first year. That's just in my time, and it is far much more than that at this juncture. Law, which would have been 300,000, and those are just for local students. If you are a foreign student, you're paying foreign fees. Leave out the foreign students, but the Guyanese people who rightfully are entitled to free education, they are being exploited upon. You understand? The fees in the University of Guyana is too exorbitant for its people. Besides, it should never be an entity where you have to pay for that education, because with the kind of emoluments generating from the country's resources could be directed, should we have wise or smart leaders into that educational fraternity and to steer the university in a way that it would produce quality outputs for the country's development. And again, we see the PPP has no such idea on their agenda. They're bad business for Guyana.
But Jason, we must also keep in mind that is a breach of the Constitution also.
Yes, and someone should take it to court. I probably may take the first move.
Well, if you're going to make the move, you could let me know. I'm going to partner with you and we can take this to court. I think we really should.
Definitely.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna check with our attorney here and see,
We'll talk more on this outside, but we'll
most
definitely take this matter.
Most definitely. We need to start relieving the students of Guyana of these as Jason would have just said, these massive amounts of monies
Yep.
that they need to put up for University of Ghana when our constitution is saying that
Free
it's free
education.
education from nursery all the way through university. And
Nursery.
listen,
Yep.
remember this too, Jason. This may have been put in place back in 1994 because, you know, Barry Jagdeo is a slick guy. He wants to be the smart guy with his Russian degree. And he wants to make it where poor people who would have been sitting and watching his oppression, you understand me, and want to go and educate themselves, can't educate themselves because they don't have the financial backings, you understand me, to do it. So
True.
we
But
we we need to take this to court, most definitely.
and also a little call out before we switch on from this topic. We also see that many of the scholarships being given, the regular scholarships, you may find one and two of a certain ethnicity being added to the mix up to say, look, we're catering for everybody.
We're
But the
diverse.
key ones for Guyana's development, there is a specific ethnicity that only gets those and nothing less. And some others are marginalized. And that in itself is not good for business. So we definitely will talk more on this subject and take action to it. They need to have free education.
Thank you so much, Jason. And if you can just, you know, give me your closing remarks for tonight, your closing remarks, sir, as we get ready to, you know, pull the curtains down on tonight's show. And even before your closing remarks, let me just give a quick call out to Miss Denise Ronaldo and her husband. You know, they are frequent watchers of this show. Denise, a pleasant good evening to you and your husband. Also to Miss Brenda Casey, if she's online, Miss Desiree Simons, um, Mr. Colin Barnwell, Mr. Gavin Caesar, Miss Audrey Brown, as I can see our post is up there now. And your closing remarks, sir. Go right ahead.
Well, in closing, I must reiterate, thank you for having me on this program. And to the Guyanese community, I love you. I love you. I love you unconditionally. What I would remind us of is that to all of us who are academically qualified, to remember, do remember that our education should not be used to complicate the heart, but rather to complement the mind, working with and through people for a common objective so that we all can harmonize, live in unity, and have a prosperous life. That should be the end goal of whatever actions demonstrated to each other. But again, think Guyanese and let us work together as a people. Let us walk the walk and talk the talk. No time for just talking. We need action. And the action is not one that is criminal in nature, but one that speaks to people's power. We must stand firm and speak truth to power. Stand up for what we believe in, and again, vote the PPP out. For Guyana to grow, the PPP must go. I say it again, for Guyana to grow, the corrupt installed regime, PPP, must go. Thank you and have a wonderful night, everyone. God bless.
Thank you very much, Jason, and I look forward to having you back. Thank you very, very much.
Yes, sir.
And just a reminder to all our listeners and viewers, tonight's program was brought to you courtesy of Linder's Restaurant in Brooklyn, New York, Andrew's Supermarket in Guyana. There you go. Andrew's Supermarket in Guyana, and Exquisite Hair Palace on Church Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. And also courtesy of the Washington law firm. You know, of course, Miss Washington takes care of medical malpractice, personal injuries, divorce, landlord, tenant. So if you have a need for a legal mind, please reach out to the Washington law firm and Miss Shellen Washington. The number is 718-877-3100. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining Straight Up tonight, and have an excellent weekend. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Love you all. One love, Guyana. We all love our country, Guyana. Have a good weekend, everyone. Good night.
Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention, education.